have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
You know, friends, as I was preparing this show, after talking with my guest, Seth Holehouse, who said many incredible things, we agree across the board. The world is a stage and everything is theater. I was reminded of this clip from 60 Minutes, and I wanted to lead off with it because that's the fact. And what's going on right now with this quote-unquote investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is only raising more questions than it's answering. And it doesn't matter if the questions are coming from Candace Owens or the FBI's lack of transparency. The world is a stage and we're all being played. And I don't think at this point we're going to find the answers we're looking for through government. Friends, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate you very, very much. Before we start, a word of warning about your dollar from a very valued sponsor. Guys, do you realize on Thursday, the 2nd of October, the bankers threw more than 230 million ounces of paper silver at the market to try to tamp down the price because China's on a holiday? Well, it didn't work, and it's not going to work. Gold and silver are going much higher when priced in faltering fiat. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? Well, that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold's specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, and U.S.-based service from a team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metals transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. Now, past returns are no guarantees of future results. Do your own due diligence, but visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, helping you build a stronger future. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. Sean from SGT Report. If you found us here on Rumble or BitChute, thank you. Because you know, we don't get to be on YouTube. Despite what Jim Jordan is saying, none of us who were terminated by YouTube in 2020 are getting our channels back. That much is clear at this point. So we'll march on Rumble, BitChute, etc., sgtreport.com. I want to start with a little anecdotal story from this morning. I was at my local coffee shop, and an older man, trendy-looking older man in his late 60s, was sitting next to me, and he was on his phone watching MSNBC clips. Now, in his defense, I was on Twitter watching clips from conservatives and actually cataloging a lot of the infighting going on, targeting Candace Owens for daring to want to investigate what happened to Charlie Kirk. We'll talk more about that in this broadcast, but I'm starting to think, guys, that Jeff Berwick is right. Anarchists are right. No government is the answer. Government can't fix anything, and it's not designed to do so. And the fact that Americans, Westerners, have been domesticated like dogs is the problem. They have bred the wolf spirit out of us. That is the number one problem. By the way, what you're seeing on my screen is an example of the problem, divide and conquer. I'll play this clip in just 1 second, but I want to welcome my guest. It's Seth Holehouse, Man in America. He's really flourishing over on Rumble, throttled completely on YouTube. But I want to thank Seth for coming on because he doesn't have to. What I'm noticing is that when your channel isn't as big as others, it's a hard time getting others to reply and respond to invites. But in this case, Seth's channel is now bigger than mine over on Rumble, and he was kind enough to accept the invite because we have so much to talk about today. Seth, how are you?
Great, Sean. The funny thing is, I'll say, is I've always have viewed you as one of the legends in this space. And so I'm honored to come on your show because I've been listening to SGT Report well before I even started my podcast. And so when I get a chance to step onto the virtual stage with you, I get kind of giddy about it, saying, "Oh, great! I got to go on with Sean and SGT Report. I mean, this he's a heavy hitter." So,
That's hilarious.
so it's great to be on here, and thank you for those kind words.
Well, I really appreciate your kind words. And let me just let the audience know you've been having technical difficulties with your old PC. He's having problems with that equipment right now. But, as I told you before I hit record, it's all so demoralizing right now, right? Because I no longer have the reach. I have no organic reach whatsoever, obviously on YouTube. It's gone. On Twitter, I have no organic reach. And, it's very demoralizing by design. Are you noticing that? Because I know my friends Hope and Tavon are, and many others in the space. We're all noticing it, and it's only going to get worse now that BB has seized control of TikTok.
Yeah, I've noticed the exact same thing. Thankfully, I think I've managed to carve out a decent audience on Rumble, and I think more and more people are coming over to Rumble, which has been good. I don't like being so centralized, as you know, the threat of that when you had your YouTube channel taken down. It's not a good feeling to know that most of your audience is existing in one place. But I think that unless you're a podcaster or you're really building yourself up as an influencer, a lot of people don't understand what happens when you get pulled off of YouTube. And if you look at this, I'm not sure the actual number scale, but the size difference between Rumble and YouTube probably has, it could be 10,000 times the size of the audience, or 1,000 times the size. It's hard to comprehend, but YouTube is the gateway to reaching obviously a much larger audience, but to reaching a new audience. And that's the thing that you and I have both lost with YouTube, is that ability to grow and to reach new voices. Rumble, as much as I love it, it does become a bit of an echo chamber. It's much more of a conservative echo chamber, it has its strengths. But I mean, as you know, this is an expensive business to run. I mean, people think, being a podcaster, you just get a webcam and a mic. I mean, I was just looking at our studio. I mean, gosh, we've probably, I just had to buy a $10,000 Mac Pro to run our system off of because the PC crashed. And we've easily spent well over $50,000 on studio equipment to put the show together. And, if you're someone, and we can get into this, if you're someone that's being backed by shadowy organizations, or what we've now seen, there's a big Israel influence campaign happening where they're paying up to $6,000 per social media post. When you're in that kind of a situation, the sky's the limit. But when you're truly independent, as you and I are, it's not easy. It's not easy to do this. And the only thing that allows us to keep going is the will and the knowledge that we're doing something greater than just having a business, that we're doing this for humanity. And that's what keeps me going. I know that's what keeps you going as well. It's fighting the information war.
Yeah. But, as I was sitting in that coffee shop watching that guy, and I was doing something very similar, I realized, okay, I'm not at the state capitol in Minnesota run by demon rats raising hell. I'm in a coffee shop. I mean, what good am I doing at this point? Because originally the idea was to wake the masses to take action. But again, it kind of gets me back to what I was talking about. We've all been so domesticated. We're now like dogs watching our doghouse crumble around us on our phones. By the way, relating to what you said about YouTube, their old slogan, Seth, was broadcast yourself. Well, forget about that. Unless you're Mr. Beast, who can host NFL partnership shtick on your channel and get tens of millions of views, forget it. YouTube is now turning into the new Comcast, and that's exactly what they want, Seth.
Exactly. It's all about centralization, and that's what you come to realize with this, is that as you get closer, as you start growing, you start hitting a glass ceiling, and you start seeing that it's like, wow, why is it? Because I remember thinking this a couple of years ago. It's like, wow, gosh, why is it that every time I open up YouTube, I'm getting recommendations to watch Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder and, Andrew Huberman, and you're seeing, or Theo Vaughn. And it's like, oh, why isn't my show doing that? I'm producing a good show. I'm having, I think, really important information come across, as you are too. And you start to realize it's like, oh, and I'm not going to say it's one big club that they're all just kind of secretly, toasting martinis together, but there's a glass ceiling that you hit if you've never signed a contract or if you've never joined into the larger playing field of social engineering, really, which is what this comes down to.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I just popped over to YouTube here, and here's Valuetainment, which I've always thought is a horrible name. I'm not saying SGT Report is great by any means, but those are my initials, by the way, guys. That's where that came from. But Patrick Bet David, see, there was a vacuum filled when they terminated so many of us on YouTube in 2020, and that vacuum was filled by other voices that sound eerily similar to the way I speak, to the interviews I do, to the topics I want to cover. But in this case, Valuetainment, by the way, this guy is now so wealthy, he brags about owning an airplane hangar near a runway that he owns so he can fly in and out with more ease. And that's where he has his broadcast studio. Guys, I mean, how in the world did that happen? Nothing against him. I don't know him personally. I think he does pretty interesting work. But 707,000 views in this one clip? So it is a crooked playing field. There's no pretense of it even being a level playing field anymore. I don't want to beat this horse to death. We have so much to talk about today. Let me do this. And by the way, if you have any comments on that, please do. But I want to share this. This is what's so effective about the cage they built for all of us. We're fish in a fishbowl. We are dogs in a doghouse. And we've all been domesticated. So it doesn't matter who's in the White House. The divide and conquer strategy continues. Here's a great example. Here's Mika Brzezinski, Zigbanu's daughter, the author of The Grand Chessboard, and Joe Scarborough, the guy with the dead intern, fighting for the masses and for that man in the coffee shop who was probably watching on his phone. Listen to the divide and conquer in this BS.
Just don't understand why we're blaming the Democrats for Republicans lying. At the highest level of office, they have the biggest megaphone. They have TV networks that repeat the lies and say things on those networks with no consequence. And the things they say are violent. Okay, so they're not only repeating the lies, but adding to this coarseness. Yeah. And there's no consequence to it. And we're blaming the Democrats? Yeah. We're blaming the Democrats for this. What exactly are the Democrats supposed to do?
You keep repeating, they're supposed to fight back.
Yes.
They're supposed to know. They're
and
supposed
lie
to
as
do
well?
it.
Like, what exactly?
No, Bill Clinton just completely abused and used Republicans in every government shutdown. I know, I was there. He was smart enough politically to do it. Barack Obama knew how to always get the best of Republicans.
All right, I'll pause it there. Seth, honestly, the minute he mentions Barry Soetoro, the CIA operative who became president, Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama, as knowing how to fight with Republicans, it's all by design. That's all this is. It's all theater. The fighting will never end. The country will never actually be fixed and returned to the people. And we'll talk about some of the latest betrayals. I think it's fair to call some of these betrayals that we've seen from Trump. The Borla, Pfizer, $70 billion contract. How about China and TikTok? Well, we can't let China control TikTok because free speech. So we're going to hand over the keys to TikTok to Bibi Netanyahu? Seth, your comment. This is all theater.
Well, I couldn't agree more that it's all theater. And I think that it's really about dividing and conquering. And this is what I've seen, especially looking at what's happened in wake of the Charlie Kirk ritual assassination, right? What happened there, which we'll get into that, is that what I've seen is that it's being used as another thing to separate the left versus the right in America. And that's what I've been watching. It's very interesting seeing the response of people looking at that, because you'll see there's a lot of people with very, very large megaphones that are instantly accepting the FBI's story. It's like, wait, we haven't trusted the FBI for decades. I mean, going back into even JFK, yet all of a sudden, all these people magically trust the FBI, and instantly they're just bearing down and saying, look, this is another Democrat thing, left versus right. This is it. The Democrats. It just, what I see with this, I think there's a lot of things moving all at once, as is the case always in social engineering. But what I'm seeing, though, is that they're using it as another thing to get us focused on the left versus right divide and get us not focused on central bank digital currency, not focused on the rollout of digital IDs, not focused on Palantir, Albert Bourla, mRNA technology. And that's what I'm seeing here, is I'm seeing that beyond a lot of the other theories and ideas I have about why they pulled off the public execution of Charlie Kirk, I think one of the biggest social engineering goals of that operative was to use it to further drive a wedge between the left and the right in America, because your average American is either now pro Charlie Kirk, I am Charlie Kirk, I'm wearing my freedom shirt, or they're on the opposite side of that. And it's just a whole nother level of social engineering and dividing us into classes and creating class warfare, which is just communism 101. If you're trying to take over a country and bring in some sort of totalitarian regime, whether it's communism or technocracy, keep the people busy fighting amongst themselves so they don't realize the cage being built around them.
I think that's 100% the case. And it's been a bit of an epiphany for me since Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I emailed you this. Okay, one of these things is not like the other. Let's talk about this. What's wrong with this picture? On Candace's channel, you have her every single day since her friend Charlie Kirk was assassinated, trying to do an investigation with her and her 4 or 5 person team. And we're getting more interesting information, sleuthing, and potential evidence from Candace Owens than we are from the FBI. And here's what I wanted to show you. Today, as we're having this conversation on the Charlie Kirk show, this panel of whoever these people are, filling Charlie's shoes, never actually doing so, are covering cancel Netflix, the Secret Service disaster, and Turning Point everywhere. I don't know that they're talking every single day about the assassination of their dear friend and founder, Charlie Kirk. They are not digging as deeply, if digging at all, like Candace Owens is. Meanwhile, there's Turning Point HD footage that was seized that day by people who work for Turning Point that we have yet to see. HD footage that may prove some very important things about how and exactly where Charlie was shot. We, the people, don't get to see that. Thanks, Turning Point. And meanwhile, Candace Owens is being brutally attacked across X by just about every conservative platform I can think of, from the Quartering to attorney Robert Barnes to Ashton Forbes to Crowder's team, Stephen Crowder's team. And for what? Daring to investigate this thing and build a timeline and ask the important questions that aren't evidently being asked by the FBI. I'd really like to see the FBI's timeline at this point. And by the way, let me just say one last thing. Remember Cox, the governor in Utah, with Kash Patel standing over his left shoulder, looking so sheepish? As Cox said, it took 33 hours, but thank God we got him. 33 hours, 33 hours. They keep parroting this 33 hours between the time of Charlie's assassination and the capture of Tyler Lee Harvey Robinson. The real timeline shows it was 37 hours and like 21 minutes. Your comment?
Well, one thing I will say about Candace Owens and what she's been doing, what's really interesting is that if you look at the reactions from all this, I think it was Saul Alinsky, in his Rules for Radicals and in his overall philosophy, he talked a lot about it's never the action, it's the reaction, right? It's like you don't do things for just the action itself. It's all about the reaction. It's causing the reaction of your enemy. And so looking at the reaction to this tells you a lot, right? You know them by their fruits. And so what I'm seeing with this is I'm seeing that basically there's 2 camps. You're seeing a lot of people that questioned George Floyd, that questioned COVID, that were the first people to start investigating a lot of the other conspiracies that ended up being true. You're seeing a lot of these people just take the bait hook, line, and sinker and now just say it was a transgender thing, it's left versus right, it's a mental health crisis, the left is violent, and they're just accepting everything. But then on the other side, people like Candace or like myself, I did multiple shows, like you, of course, that are not necessarily coming out there and saying, look, Israel did it, here's the proof, right? Because we don't have proof of that. you can have suspicions. Okay. It's like guilty, it's like innocent until proven guilty. However, what you see though is that they're not even asking the questions. And that's what really bothers me, is because when you look back in history and you look at the assassination of JFK, and you look at all the anomalies that were happening there, the magic bullet, all the suspicious activity, the fact that they had to kill the patsy immediately afterwards, you look back at that and you think, gosh, why didn't more of the American public question this? Especially as the years went by and now they've made movies about it. Why weren't more people questioning this? But what I'm seeing now is that a large portion of the population, I think, are probably even more gullible than people were with JFK's death. And they're just accepting it. And the thing is that here's how you know that this is some sort of psychological operation, is because what happened right after the JFK assassination, all of a sudden we have this new term, conspiracy theory, right? Similar to the term anti-vaxxer. This is social engineering 101. You create labels, and you use these labels to demonize an entire class of people that are just asking questions. And then you convince the public that anybody labeled with this term is crazy. So that way no one even looks in that case, looks there. So you can imagine that, say, 10 years after JFK or a year after or whatever, if you're sitting around the dinner table and you say, family, something feels really off about that JFK assassination. I don't buy it. They're going to say, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Well, the same thing is happening now, but now if you question the Charlie Kirk assassination, you're either an anti-Semite because you've opened up the possibility that maybe Israel or the Mossad could have been involved. You're either an anti-Semite, or even as Laura Loomer put out in one of her tweets, saying that basically that anybody questioning his death had a mental condition, that had psychosis. And she publicly stated that. And so what I'm seeing is, I think that Charlie Kirk is JFK 2.0 in every single way, whether it's the magic bullet, whether it is the very fast cover up, the very fast finding and trial of the supposed murderer. All these different things stack up completely. But if you look at what's happening now from it, you're seeing it. Like, look at the attacks that Candace is getting. And I think what you're seeing is that the more they attack her, the more she digs into it. And so you're seeing this battle play out. But it's just interesting because there's a lot of very strong conservative voices that 6 months ago, I thought, wow, these people are doing a great job. They've got a large platform. They're focusing on the important issues. But then if you look at it now, you see, now they got the memo, right? They got the memo. And I'm not saying that, because there's a lot of people that instantly jumped on the conclusion and said, it was Israel. It's like, well, no, to me, it's like, that's also not the right conclusion, because, maybe there's a lot of indications that might be the case, that the Mossad might have been involved. I think that the CIA and the Mossad are kind of tied, they're kind of conjoined twins. But I think that people that ask the question of like, hey, was there any foul play? They've been demonized so much that I see another round of social engineering happening. And I think Candace is the tip of the spear, or she's also, there's a saying in Chinese about being the front duck, right? If you're flying in the duck formation, you don't want to be the front duck, because the front duck is the one that gets shot first. And that's what we're seeing happening with Candace, just for asking questions.
Well, that's my take. And I don't put Candace up on a pedestal. Okay, she has her flaws for sure, like any human being. But what she is doing on a daily basis takes so much courage. I cannot overstate this, guys, because I have been the victim of attacks by Bank of America. By the way, that video expose about Bank of America and the attacks against SGT Report in 2011, I did an expose called "Which Criminal Bank Hates SGT Report? Find Out Now." Well, it only lived on alt-censored at this point, okay? Because YouTube cleansed everything. Google has cleansed everything. It lived on alt-censored. I looked for it the other day. It's gone. They are literally cleansing the global library of truth and information and replacing it with a repository of what they want you to believe. By the way, Health Ranger says massive dollars are being dropped onto this platform by the hour to boost posts that either attack Candace Owens, attack Tucker Carlson, promote and excuse Israel and its genocide. X is becoming so polluted with paid posts and bought off influencers that it's almost a horror festival at this point, to which I said, correct, whores for Bibi. Let me ask you something, my friend. We can all see the writing on the wall. And I think what's going on here, after Trump just rolled out the red carpet for Bibi Netanyahu, and now we have the head of Oracle, Larry Ellison, taking over TikTok. He's an avowed Zionist. He's in the pocket of Israel, always has been. And now Bibi just had that meeting with influencers. I call them the 10-cent bunch because I've never heard of any of them, but they all bent the knee. They all bent the knee to Bibi, and they had a sit down, just like Tim Pool. By the way, just like Tim Pool, a private conversation with Bibi Netanyahu. You know, let me tell you, Seth, my wife asks me a lot, what do you think it was? What were you saying? What did you cover that got you kicked off of YouTube? I think it's because I talk about Zionism and the problem with Zionism and the dancing Israelis on 9/11. That's what I think ultimately got me. Now, Media Matters for America will tell the people that SGT Report was removed for election misinformation or election interference after I had a conversation with Dr. Shiva. It's preposterous. We were removed from YouTube because Media Matters for America demanded it on October 15th, 2020, and YouTube dutifully obeyed. Media Matters for America links to the Democrat Party, links to funding by George Soros, links to the State of Israel. The writing on the wall, Seth, is this, and I think why we're seeing people like Ashton Forbes, the Crowder team, Robert Barnes, all of these people turning in such a virulent way against Candace is because they too see the writing on the wall and they want to continue to have their platforms and make their money. I think it's as simple as that. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, you can see a very clear pattern that's emerged that is, it's not even something that has been kind of hidden and now you kind of see it all of a sudden. It's like for anyone who's looked at it, as you mentioned, you've seen it for a very long time. And it's, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that have bent the knee and they've just said, look, I'm just going to go in all in on this and get the support, because it's almost like when you see, looking back in history, you see that there's some sort of overthrow or a coup happening. And all of a sudden the people that were against a lot of the principles that the coup would be bringing in, all of a sudden they're taking sides with it. And it's like, oh, what's going on here? And it's like, oh, well, they're just aligning themselves with the next power that's coming in to control things. And I think it's very obvious that that's what's happening now. Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you, we got to talk about the betrayals. And I'm going to do a conversation tomorrow with Attorney Todd Callender and Dr. Lee Vliet. God bless her heart. I love Dr. Lee Vliet. But she does drink a little bit of the official Kool-Aid. And I know, because I talked to her on the phone today, as I brought this up, this betrayal is how I see it with Pfizer and the $70 billion contract. She went into the whole thing with Obamacare, going back to the Clintons, and the elephant in the room is trying to remove the inability to get affordable pharmaceuticals, right? We're trying to rein in the big pharma companies, but I cannot give a pass to this genocidal maniac. So anyway, Dr. Simon Gedek says, before the election, we'll release the Epstein files. After election, we got to protect the pedophiles. Before the election, we'll end the wars. After the election, we got to fund the genocide. Before the election, we'll go after COVID crimes. After the election, we got to hand $70 billion to Pfizer and roll out the red carpet in the White House to Albert Bourla, a genocidal maniac who should be perp walked and should be doing hard time for his crimes. But no, we have Tina Peters still languishing in a Colorado prison. Here's the thing, Seth. I've been calling the assassination of Charlie Kirk a turning point in American history, because what they're going to do is they are going to roll out, they're going to fast track hate speech laws in this country so you cannot breathe above your breath when speaking in condemnation of Israel. My
concern is that you look at the bigger picture of all of this and you look at what just happened under Kelly over in the UK. With the rollout of the digital ID, what they're also doing in, the broader Europe, right? Traveling into the European Union, requiring, biometric stuff happening there. I think, as I was reflecting on this earlier today, I'm putting together a show and a presentation all about digital ID, really focusing a lot on how it's being used in China, which I'm not sure if you've been seeing more of the videos coming out of China lately. It's absolutely insane what's happening over there with people being forced to scan QR codes whenever they go into businesses, children being QR code and scanned every time they go into school, facial recognition, even to the point where you've got cameras with facial recognition in grocery stores watching you and watching every single item you put into your cart and adjusting your social credit score according to what you buy. So if you buy an extra amount of alcohol that day, your social credit score is getting docked. And this is what concerns me the most about all of this, is that, again, you look at all the focus on Charlie Kirk, of course it's important, but whenever you see these things that consume all of the headlines, all of the public discussion, one of the questions I always ask is, like, what are they distracting us from? It's a question that really Graceful is always asking in her videos. She says, what are we being distracted from? And this is it. And the thing is, you say, look at the fruits, right? Look at what they're actually doing. And I think the bigger plan with what the cabal's goals are for America: open the border under Joe Biden, allow all the illegals to flood in, and then under Trump, have the merger of big tech and big government happen, which we're seeing that happen, whether it's Peter Thiel, Palantir, Oracle, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all the big tech people, which in my opinion are frontmen for these companies that are front companies for the DoD and for the military industrial complex, which is, in my opinion, that's what big tech really is. It's just government level surveillance and social engineering tools that are rebranded as these for public fun social media platforms, which that's a whole different discussion to get into. But I think that what we're seeing is the rollout of what will become the digital ID slave state of America. And I think that the open border under Biden, one of the larger objectives of that was to then allow Trump to come in next, knowingly to allow Trump to come in and start to talk about the need for digital ID to enforce immigration. And that's, I think, what we're seeing. That's going to, again, this is the classic Hegelian dialectic, right? It's problem, reaction, solution. Problem, all these people coming into our country, we have no idea who they are. Reaction, everyone's upset. There's crime. Everyone's saying, get them out of our country. And the solution, we know it now, folks. The best solution to keep America's borders safe is going to be a mandatory digital ID. And digital ID is the first step. That's the first step on a very, very slippery slope where, in just a couple of years, you could see everything that's happening in China happening here in America. And even if Trump has the best of intentions, let's just imagine that he's really trying his best and he really believes that this is going to help save our country from illegal immigration, which would, is destroying our country. It doesn't matter, because when the next person comes into office, whether it's J.D. Vance, right, backed by Thiel and that whole squad of people, whether it's someone like Gavin Newsom or anybody like that, it doesn't matter anymore, because now they've got the keys. They've got the keys to the castle. And all of the weapons that were built in the castle under Trump, even if initially they're pointed towards our enemies, those same weapons will be turned around and pointed at us, the American citizens. And this right here is my greatest concern right now, is what I'm seeing moving forward.
Well, you triggered a thought too, because social engineering is what they're doing, and they're corralling us like cattle to the slaughter. More on that in just 1 second. I saw this on Zero Hedge earlier today. And it plays into that tweet I just shared. Trump approves giving Ukraine intel for missile strikes deep inside Russia? What happened to bringing this war to an end within the first, 30 days? Wasn't that the promise? And I want to play this clip in just 1 second. I haven't heard this yet. We'll watch it together. We'll process together. The Charlie Kirk assassination is being used to push something dark and sinister. Probably true based on what Seth and I are talking about here. But I just want to make one note. As it pertains to corralling us like cattle, there was a documentary about a woman. I don't remember if she was a farmer or a consultant, but she loved animals, very smart woman. She had autism. I believe she was on the spectrum. And she came up with this solution to get cattle to go to slaughter more peacefully. Because the cattle, once they realized they were going to get a steel rod put right through their head, they became very combative. All right. It spread like wildfire throughout the herd. They knew it was up. So this woman came up with this brilliant idea to parade the cattle up a chute, a spiral chute, where they were always blinded by where they were going until they got to the top. Then they got the iron rod to the head. That's exactly what's going on here, in my estimation. You want to comment on that before we play this clip?
We're being blindfolded and led down a spiral chute until it keeps going around and around until it ends, and before you realize that you're on the floor of the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, or hopelessly enslaved. Let's check out this clip. I haven't heard this yet, but I bet she's over the target.
It's become very clear to me in the wake of the assassination that there is a particular solution being put forth. I mean, article after article, interview after interview in the weeks after this tragic event, and it's being exploited to push something called a dignity index. But this current article exposes how they're using Charlie Kirk's death and the motives of his alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, to silence speech he viewed as hateful, to say, hey, we need to score and rate speech by the levels of hate and contempt that it has.
All right, perfect. That's exactly right. That's exactly what we're talking about. You and I know what's going on here, and we've never heard that clip. Of course, that's what's going on here. So now if you want to talk about the motive behind assassinating Charlie Kirk, you've got your answer, folks. You've got your answer. And by the way, I think that memorial was somewhat appalling. I mean, the fireworks, and then Ms. Kirk comes out to get the embrace from Trump. I don't know. It just, my spidey senses were going off just like Candace's. It's all very weird. And nobody over there at Turning Point is demanding answers from the FBI, going on the Charlie Kirk show every single day to recount where we are in the investigation, to talk about getting to the bottom of who murdered Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, Ashton Forbes is all over X telling people they're crazy, they're stupid, they're psychos, they're quote unquote retards for questioning the official story, pinning it on a 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, whose parents say he had nothing to do with it and never stepped foot on campus that day. I mean, what in the hell is going on here, Seth?
I think it's exactly what you and I have been talking about. I think it's exactly what Lisa Logan is talking about. Again, it's problem, reaction, solution. These are new ways, similar to 9/11, right? And the Patriot Act. This is exactly what happens over and over and over again. You know the playbook just as well as your listeners and just as well as I do. It's the same thing over and over again. They create the problem, we react to it, and then they slip in the solution. And I think it's another psychological operation designed to strip away our freedoms. You know, when you have Pam Bondi going up there talking about hate speech and criminalizing hate speech, I'm thinking, gosh, are we in Canada? Are we in the UK? Is this America, where this is what our own AG is talking about? It's frightening, unfortunately. I mean, it's very, very concerning for those that see what's happening. But the problem, Sean, is that I feel like a lot of people don't see what's going on. And I think that's also one of the reasons why channels like yours and channels like mine are not allowed to reach a broader audience, because what we're doing is you and I are at the beginning of that spiral chute for the cattle. We've got signs saying, don't go in the chute. It's a trick. They're going to stick a steel spike into your head. Don't do it, right? That's what we're doing out there. And of course, they're not going to allow us to flourish and kind of reach the masses with that kind of a message. And so that's my concern. That's really, when you get into a conversation like this, and I've thought through a lot of this, and I've probably felt some of the ups and downs that you've had, and some of the ups and downs the audience has had, the excitement of Trump winning, in the election last year, and RFK coming in and thinking, wow, he's finally got the team. We've got Dan Bongino, we've got Kash Patel. And I think we've now seen the reality of where we are. I mean, I've interviewed Kash, probably you have before as well. And like, I don't recognize the guy anymore. It's like, this isn't the guy I was talking to, 10 months ago or a year ago. But I think though, when we get to it, what I come back on is because the question I ask myself then is, well, where's the hope? Where's the future? Because it certainly isn't a future in which the government does the right thing and takes care of us. And what I've been focusing on more and more is just, what do I have control over? And that's the thing, is I think that for people that see the writing on the wall, there's two things for me. A, try to get as many other people to see the writing on the wall that you do. And that's through sharing articles like this, going to your local school board meetings, your local city council meetings, being vocal, being active on social media, amplifying this discussion and discussions like this. But also, I think it's about taking control into your own hands and building community, building self-reliance. If you're someone that is living deep inside of a big city, well, if COVID wasn't enough of an indication, now maybe it's time for you to say, you know what? It's time to move to the country. It's time to become more independent and more resilient, because I'm concerned that we're heading into a very dark place. I really believe that we are in the days of Noah. And actually, I'm in the process of just finishing up a book. I've got a book coming out called Prep Like Noah, where it's basically looking at the parallels of what was happening during Noah's time, when the earth was flooded with evil, controlled by evil, genetic manipulation, complete and utter just blasphemy everywhere you looked. And that's what it took, right? It took a flood to wipe out that evil. And so I think that we're in those days again where the evil has become so rampant, it's become so arrogant that they're not even trying to hide. The FBI, they're not even trying to come up with a good story, a good cover for this. It's sloppy. And I think actually that, their power used to lie in secrecy, but I think actually now that their power lies in disclosure without consequence, that now they can do these things publicly so we can watch what they're doing and see it happen in real time, but we can't do anything about it. And that's where they're at now. And it's a very scary place to be. But I think that what gives me hope is not relying on the government, not relying on a politician or someone in DC or anybody like that, and just focusing on doing what I can do to build resilience for my family. Getting out of the banking system as much as I can, stacking, precious metals, storing up on food, building a small community around me, getting to know my local farmers, getting to know the friends and neighbors that are going to be there, because a day might come sooner than we think where all of a sudden, if you want to even go into the grocery store, no longer is it you have to wear a mask. It's now going to be what we're seeing in China, that you need to scan your QR code to show your vaccination status. That's where I think we're headed. It's all going to be AI driven, all the monitoring, everything. So I'm just focused on preparing. I'm preparing in every way possible to make sure that if and when that happens, that I can take care of my family outside of that system. And what gives me hope is that there are a lot of people doing that exact same thing. There's a lot of people that are saying, I will not comply. I will build my own parallel economy. I will build local relationships with people. I will bridge these relationships, and I'm going to stand up with my fellow Americans that still believe in independence and unalienable rights, and we're going to make our last stand together. And that's where my focus has become a lot more these days.
Well, that makes really good sense to me, and I just want to say a few things. First of all, great title, Prep Like Noah. That's an exceptionally good title, because there is nothing new under the sun. And the people that cheered and celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that's the same spirit of the Antichrist as the mob that cheered for the death of Jesus Christ and the liberty, the freedom of Barabbas, the rapist murderer. There's nothing new under the sun, okay? It's the same thing, the same type of people. Prep Like Noah, great title. And a couple things I want to say regarding dollar collapse silver. Owen Benjamin was right. Owen Benjamin, had him on the show a couple of times a few years ago. Great guy, very smart, very funny, good-looking dude. Homesteader with his family, his beautiful kids, his lovely wife. He's free. He's living free. And he doesn't get bogged down in this crap. He doesn't get bogged down in this crap every single day. Now, he's willing to talk about these things, but he doesn't focus on it. He focuses on his family, on his comedy, on his life, on his animals, on his farm, on raising and rearing his children. I think he's right. Because we are not going to stop this, Seth. And, I guess we're watchmen on the tower. Well, good luck when the sheep, the dogs, are all domesticated. And Owen Benjamin has been, with kudos to him, defending Candace, not because he likes her, not because he knows her, not because he was following her investigation, but because those who are shrilling and shrieking at the top of their lungs to say she's an idiot and she should shut up, and she's not respecting Charlie's memory by doing this investigation, he's saying that that made him look into what she was saying, because these people are all obviously trying to cover something up. They're trying to shut her up. And by the way, Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, people who still have huge platforms, they should be registered, in my opinion, as foreign agents of a foreign nation. Now, Prep Like Noah, it's a great title. I know you just recently interviewed David Jensen. In just the 5-10 minutes we have left, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about silver. I bought silver for the first time in 2 years because I can see where this thing is going. I always have. Just to round out the conversation about the collapse, it could go one of two ways, and I think we know which way it's going to go, Seth. It could free us from these tyrants that print the money out of thin air if we reject their central bank digital currencies and their digital IDs and we do not comply. Then they have no power. But if people like this person you're about to see does accept that and needs those bailouts because she can't see living her life any other way because she is a fish in a fishbowl, and I think that is the majority of the population, there's no escaping this. Listen to this, and then we'll talk about your interview with David Jensen.
All the other countries that wonder and say that Americans are just fat and lazy and they don't do anything to better themselves. This is what $115 gets you. Let me show you. We were able to get some Ritz crackers, one thing of cereal, some ramen, more ramen, tuna, bag of potatoes, a few avocados, some snacks, desserts, 2 bags of chips, ice creams, pizza rolls, some sausage biscuits, one thing of Dr. Pepper. All of this for $115. We're not making it. This is going to feed my kids for less than a week. And this doesn't include any dinners. There are no dinners here. This is lunch and snacks. I don't know how people are making it. It's hard out there.
All right. I play that for 2 reasons, obviously, guys. I play it because I feel her pain. We all do. Okay. Costs of everything are only going up, and we're watching our purchasing power hyperinflate when priced in gold, in silver, in Bitcoin, Solana, some of these cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin specifically. But this poor woman, God bless her heart, she's not feeding her children with that kind of food. She's poisoning her children, I think unknowingly. Seth, there's the rub. Owen Benjamin and people who have built homesteads and now live off the land and are doing their farming, they are feeding their children, and they will continue to be able to feed their children regardless of what happens to the dollar to a large extent. But you know what? I'm happy to trade fiat dollars for physical silver at my local coin shop. What did David Jensen have to say about what's coming?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. I'll try to do it quickly. I'll give us a quick comment on that video before we move on from that. Obviously, you can see what she's illustrating, and yeah, it's ridiculous how expensive those things have become. But also, what I see in that video is the perfect example of the domesticated dog, as you mentioned. It's the perfect example of the silent weapons for quiet wars, the destruction of the American spirit and what it means to be independent. Because I didn't see a single bag of flour. I didn't see a single bag of rice, a single bag of dry beans. If you are really trying to stretch your budget, that is, you do not buy packaged food. That's one of the things. Because, and this is one of the great psyops, I think, is that they've tricked us into thinking that that is real food. In my household, almost every day we're baking a fresh loaf of sourdough, organic sourdough. Maybe it costs us 50 or 75 cents in material. It's one of the easiest things to do. The fact that the average household isn't baking sourdough bread every day to feed their family. Instead, they're going and they're paying a premium for Wonder Bread with sprayed on chemicals that are poisoning their kids is just ridiculous. So that's a whole different discussion, and showing how they've changed even how Americans eat. That Americans no longer how to I mean, not all of them, I'm sure a lot of you listeners do, but the average American no longer knows how to actually prepare real food anymore, and that they're stuck paying for this overpriced poison in packages in the middle of the grocery store. But moving on to silver and gold with David Jensen, I'll do my best to summarize. But one of the larger points and themes of our discussion, which I'm not sure when you're publishing this, but I'm publishing my interview with him on my Rumble channel tonight, Thursday, October 2nd. So it'll be there at 10 p.m. Eastern. Tonight is when it's going up for people that will go want to watch that show. What he outlined for me was basically that, few points I'll touch. The price of gold and silver, the skyrocketing that we're seeing of these metals, is not necessarily reflective of demand. It's reflective of the LBMA mechanisms that they've used to suppress those prices breaking down. So their ability to hide inflation through suppressing the price of gold and silver, which he's referred to as the canaries in the coal mine, that's a big part of why we're seeing these prices going up. But it's also an indication of currency collapse. And to me, that's the big point here, is that the fiat currencies, the amount of debt the world has, hundreds of trillions of dollars of debt in this world right now, the entire system is getting ready to crumble. The entire pyramid Ponzi scheme of fiat currencies and central bankers just printing and printing and printing nonstop, it's getting ready to break. But as he puts it, it's all by design. If you take a step back and you look at the overarching plan, the first step was to take away real money. The dollar is not money, it's currency. Money is silver, money is gold. That's real money, it's real value. So their first step was to, what we saw happen in America, is to take silver and gold out of circulation as being real money and replace it with fiat. And that first step finalized under Nixon in the 70s when they officially took the dollar off the gold standard. So now they've done the first step of taking us from real into fake, into fiat. The next step is to inflate the fiat, inflate the money supply. Everyone thinks, oh my gosh, wow, the stock market's at record highs. It's like, yeah, because they're printing more and more and more money. Wow, real estate's up. Wow, my house has doubled in price in the past 5 years. Yes, because they're printing so much money. It's hiding, it's creating a bubble. And this is all by design. They know that fiat currencies have a life cycle. So they've had to keep the dollar alive for so long as they could, just to hit the goal of being able to replace it with a central bank digital currency. And this is the giant warning that David was giving, is that the cycle is go from gold and silver to paper money, inflate the paper money, collapse the paper money, leave everyone penniless, and come in with the solution of a central bank digital currency. It's again, problem, reaction, solution. And that's where he thinks things are heading. Unfortunately, that's where I think things are heading. What he did say, though, is he said that the antidote to the poison of central bank digital currency are physical precious metals, physical gold and physical silver, offline, off-grid, forming your own local communities of bartering. Because if that happens, you can imagine, Sean, let's just say that, a year from now, the market gets wiped out, the dollar enters into hyperinflation. Your average, pension fund that someone has, or their 401k with $100,000 is worth $5,000. Like that's what happens with hyperinflation. They come in saying, look, here's a solution, central bank digital currency, this is it. A lot of people will have no other choice but to accept it. It's like the people that took the vaccine because they had to keep their job. They had to do something. They say, well, I kind of have to. That's social engineering. How do you get the population to accept mass vaccination? They showed you. How do you get them to accept a mass centralized digital currency, destroy their savings, leave them penniless, and come in with this as the offer on the golden platter? However, what David said, and what I believe too, is that the people that are holding precious metals, physical gold and silver, will be able to create a parallel economy, will be able to barter with those, and will be able to escape the trap of that central bank digital currency. And that was a big part of our discussion.
Well, we've had David on. We've known him for many, many years, and he's very, very good at what he does. And I just want to say one last thing as we round out the conversation with my friend, Seth Holehouse, Man in America on Rumble. Here's what needs to happen, guys, moving forward. Please, please listen. Please inform your friends, neighbors, and colleagues. Go to city council meetings and just say these words. Say no to central bank digital currencies. Say no to digital ID or real ID. Say no to UBI, Universal Basic Income. Do not comply with what is coming. By the way, the silver slam we saw today, as silver literally touched $48, more banker paper. In today's case, evidently they threw 234 million ounces of paper silver at the market to cause a flash crash. That is nearly 1/3 of the global annual production of physical silver. Silver, in my estimation, guys, remains one of the most undervalued tangible assets on planet Earth. And there aren't many of those left. Got to tell you guys, especially as they debase your purchasing power every single day. Here's the channel over on Rumble, Man in America with Seth Holehouse. He's also still on YouTube, but very, very much throttled. We appreciate you coming on today. Seth, any final words on how people can support you, follow you? Is Rumble the best place? And how active are you over on X?
So Rumble is definitely the best place to get my content. Also, really any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. That's where I usually listen to you on some of the podcast apps over there. I'm relatively active on X. It's not easy to grow over there, but it's at Man in America US. And one final thing is that something that I didn't mention yet is a big initiative I'm doing right now, really in seeing the writing on the wall and seeing, okay, how can we fight back against this, is I'm building an online community. So Sean, if you go to buildtheark.com, that's Ark with a K, like Noah's Ark. So I'm building something called the Ark Community. And what this is going to be is it's an online community to build offline relationships. The people that think like me, that think like you, Sean, that want to find a place that's private where they can meet other people. They can have access to educational videos on water purification, solar, any number of things. But most importantly, where they can meet fellow people around the world and specifically here in America, join local chapters. That's what I've seen. What I've seen is that we need to be able to find the people that think like you and I do, and we need to be able to band together. And so the community, it's not open to the public yet. We're still in beta testing, but it's buildtheark.com, and you know, people can sign up right there just if they want to be notified when it does open up. It's also, if you're interested in getting notifications on when the book is going to be coming out, Prep Like Noah, it's also a great place to sign up there as well. And we'll put you on the list so you get notified of that. And this is really, of course, I'm still doing the podcast and it's really important, but I'm putting a lot more of my time into thinking about how can I build solutions to allow as many people as possible the access to the knowledge and the relationships and the communities that they need to survive the coming flood. And that's what I'm doing right now.
I love it. Yeah, this is great. Great allegories, great analogies. The coming flood. That's very good, man. All right, Seth Holehouse, buildtheark.com. Stay in touch with Seth. Visit him over on the Rumble channel, which is right here, Man in America. You can follow Seth on Twitter at Man in America US on X. And one last word. Owen Benjamin, a credit to you, my brother. You're right. You've been right. Honestly, Owen Benjamin has this thing called Beartaria. I think it's a readout, a community he's building with his followers. It seemed a little Kool-Aid-ish to me, a little culty to me, even though I like Owen. But now I'm actually starting to come full circle. We got to stick together, guys, or we will surely die separately and on our knees. That is the plan. That is the Zionist plan. If you don't reject Christ, off with your head. Our guest has been Seth Holehouse. Thank you, Seth. You're a stand-up guy. I appreciate you.
Oh, Sean, thank you for the opportunity. It's always great speaking to you.
All right. God bless you and yours. And friends, God bless you and yours as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could try to spread this information through your own channels on social media, since mine are dwindling quickly and I'm very much throttled on X. We appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll remind you guys every single day for free, check us out to get the real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda 24/7 at sgtreport.com. Until next time, God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.
I believe London is out of gold and London is out of silver. And at the same time, we got something we've never mentioned here. It is being the declaration of silver as a national security metal by the United States, by Russia, and by Mexico.